What is up, everybody? Welcome to Statistically Speaking, a UteNation Podcast. I'm Ute fan Ivan. I'm joined with my friends Dustin, Joe, and Matt, and we're going to start things off talking about the game on Saturday. We actually just entered the studio here, and as soon as we entered the studio, it was just pain, just absolute pain. Joe, what did you say when you joined in?
Oh, you asked me if I had a chart for the Colorado game, and I literally do not have a chart for the Colorado game because I forgot that the Utes had a game coming up. I was so in my feelings over the last couple of days that I didn't even remember that.
It's so painful. Spain.
Listen,
yes,
I know we're all going to spend most of this segment complaining about a lot of things. I want to start us off by complaining about the AP poll. How is a team that Utah beat by 32 points ranked and Utah isn't?
Because
with the same record.
Because
Arizona
Sam
State
Leavitt,
is ranked. Arizona State is ranked.
Sam Leavitt would have
32 points.
He would have prevented Utah from scoring 32 points. That's why.
Sam Leavitt's not worth 32 points. Arizona State is ranked. Utah isn't. The AP poll is trash and completely.
I couldn't even get myself to look at the AP poll. I just didn't even want to.
It's all bogus.
Frustrating too because the BYU is a good football team.
Right. Utah loses by 3 to a top 15 program.
Wire to wire, onside kick to close. I don't think Utah did anything. And I kind of go into it. Utah didn't do anything that said to me this team was any different than they were kind of going into this game, right? Like this for me was very much I said Utah had a 50.98% chance to win, and this was the other 49%, right? Like that's just how the ball bounces sometimes, right? In this case, I mean, if I because this is the job, right? If I'm going to have to identify something, it's the ball bouncing off of the hands and feet of special teams players. That is the consistent problem, and it's really shocking because if you go back through the history of Utah football and Kyle Whittingham as a football coach, all the way back to Louis Sakota, right? I mean, way back, which I guess is pre Kyle, but the special teams edge has been a key part of Utah's sort of special sauce and their ability to outcompete teams that are generally, bigger, faster, stronger. And this year, and I've actually mentioned it a few times in prior podcasts, but Utah, after that last game, stayed in the top, I think, 15 in offensive and defensive efficiency. Yeah, they're 12th on offense, 11th on defense. And keep in mind, efficiency is sort of a backward-looking, how did you do based on the quality of opponents? They are ranked 129th in the country in special teams efficiency. They are one of the worst special teams units in the entire country. And when you compare that against, Matty Gay teams and all that Utah has done on special teams over years and years and years, is really striking and shocking to me. That they don't have their heads together as well as you would expect. And it really did cost them the game this time. I think if you have to pick, what were the swing plays in a game where it's going to be decided by 2 or 3 plays, it was special teams. And it was I've talked to a number of fans who they did not understand why were they going for it on all of those fourth downs. And the answer is, if you don't have confidence in those field goals. I thought it was funny too, because I predicted, I think 18-17. I predicted the Utes were going to kick 6 field goals, and I should have realized they're going to go for it on fourth down 6 times, and so they're either going to win by 21 or lose. And yeah, that's what happened. They couldn't rely on their special teams in a number of different ways, and it was a close game where both teams otherwise played very well. And they lost.
Yeah, that is not a new thing. There were several years, about a decade of Kyle's coaching where Utah was consistently one of the best special teams. Field goals, kicking, punting, and returning.
Well,
the last 4 years,
because kicking is kind of one guy, right? You get the right guy.
Yeah.
Punting, same thing. Utah had remarkable luck with a string of these Aussie punters who were just incredibly good.
But the last couple of years,
it's the returns and the punt coverage that have always consistently been exceptional, and just not there this year.
Well, I would say those first 10 or so years of Kyle's tenure at Utah, I don't remember a blocked kick or a blocked punt. And then the last couple of years, there have been blocked kicks and blocked punts every year. I remember seeing Arizona block 2 punts in the same game. Maybe 4 years ago. I mean, it's not a this year problem. It is a thing that the coaching staff has not been able to fix for multiple years. And, it has bitten them in other games too. It almost cost them a game against a very bad Arizona team. I don't remember what year that was, but that was one of those kind of 2-win, 3-win Arizona teams, and they beat them by 6 because 2 punts got blocked.
I was watching this game with my daughter, who doesn't really like football, but she was just watching it because of all the hype around it. And at the end of the game, I was like, man, those 2 turnovers were so critical. And then she said, Dad, didn't they have 5 turnovers? And I was like, what do you mean? No, there's just the fumble and the interception. And she's like, well, they said turnover on downs. And I was like, you know what? Actually, that's a great point, because they had 5 turnovers essentially. And those 3 turnovers that aren't marked as turnovers were the worst part of the game. I mean, you put up 470 yards, and you can only score 21 points. That's where the problem came. And that's not going to happen very often. You're not going to have, especially with the talent that Utah has. Got to give some credit to BYU being able to make the stops there. I think Utah's finding some new weapons. I think Bray is just going to get better and better. We've seen that. And yes, he was one of the ones that was stopped, but I don't know. This game stings, obviously, but there's still so much there. You look at Notre Dame, okay? They're ranked number 12, and they've essentially had the exact same path as Utah. They have 1 loss to an undefeated team. They have 1 loss to a 1-loss team. And then their biggest win is over a team that was ranked, I think, number 20 at the time that they beat them. So it's almost identical to what Utah has. And yet Notre Dame, because they have the Notre Dame, they're Notre Dame, they get to be number 12. So I know Ute fans are really down right now, but what I put out on Twitter was, did anybody expect them to go, better than 10-2? Like, did anybody expect that?
Some Utah fans did. Some
did, but really it's one of those games where it stings a lot because it's BYU, but it's a road game against a highly ranked opponent, and that's really hard to win. And if you make those types of critical mistakes, then you're going to lose. And it just happened to come to BYU, so it hurts. But this is still a very good football team.
Yeah. If I had given you the statistical breakdown prior, and I had held back the 105 on 4th down, it's not 5 turnovers, it's 6. It's a pick, a fumble, and 4 failed 4th down conversions, all inside of field goal range. And I don't care how whether Kyle trusts his kicker or not. One of those is from the 6-yard line. One of them is from the 12. And then 2 of them are about 45-yard kicks, but not outside of this kicker's range. He makes 2 of those. Utah wins this game. But if I'd given you the rest of the stats, Utah is 42% on 3rd down. So pretty good, to 25% for BYU. They have 80 more passing yards. They have 20 more rushing yards. They're getting 6.1 yards a carry versus 4.8 for BYU. You look at those stats, and that feels like a Utah win. You feel comfortably in the lead for that game. And then either, depending on what kind of Utah fan you are, either the refs did a terrible job or Utah played a messy game. Because in the first 3 quarters of the game, penalty-wise, Utah had 9 penalties for 62 yards, and BYU had 1 penalty for 2 yards. So I'm not saying, right, I can't get fined by the conference, but I will say for sure there are 2 obvious missed penalties against BYU. I don't know how they don't get called for that late hit. It is the most obvious and most blatant late hit I have seen all year. The ref is standing right there. They are tussling a little bit. The whistle was blown 10 seconds ago, and they push the Utah player over. That's a penalty. So, and then the hold that calls back Utah's interception is an okay call. That's a penalty, but that is ticky-tack. And if you're going to call that, you better be calling it both ways. And they weren't, and I know they weren't, because Utah had 1 penalty for 2 yards in the first 3 quarters. So now, is Utah playing undisciplined? Maybe they are, but that is bad refereeing. If Utah's got 9 for 60 and BYU's got 1 for 2.
They caught Utah twice on 2 different kickoff returns for holds.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, what? Like, yeah, that was a little bit odd. I think, for me personally,
the thing about that is I always struggle with that because they still played well enough to win.
Right. And again, that might be Utah making too many mistakes.
And
that could be Utah making
whether
too many
those mistakes were, getting a little too handsy on your first date with the wide receiver or not catching the ball or dropping the ball. Mistakes are mistakes, and sometimes refs catch them, and sometimes it's something else. But
Utah got away with plenty too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I get it. It was watching the game, especially at the end. There were a couple of plays where that's the one that people are going to be talking about on Twitter. But Utah should not have been in a position where they needed to get bailed out on a 3rd down with the call, right?
And Utah had 4.
They were playing well enough to win the football game.
Right. Utah had 4 field goal opportunities. They should have taken all 4 of them.
And they lost.
They make half of them, they win the game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Honestly, I tell my kids, my flag football kids, I tell them, look, kids, if the game is that close that the refs can decide it, then that's our fault.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same. I mean, you got to just, you know what? You can't put it on that. But there was some obvious stuff.
I think that is all of my thoughts on the BYU game. Other than BYU sucks. Go Utes.
I'll share my perspective real quick because I haven't been able to yet.
We talked to you. You're allowed to just say,
just say it. I'd be like, you guys are...
So I put together a little my first ever podcast recently, and I kind of went over some thoughts. One of the things I didn't talk about in that was I was very surprised coming out of the Arizona State game how we saw BYU dominate the line of scrimmage, specifically their defensive line. They got pressure on Dampier quite a bit, much more than I thought that they would. And Utah's offensive line, I don't know what BYU did schematically. I think they focused a little bit more on the edges than Utah anticipated they would. They had the speed to keep up with Bray. They had the speed to keep up with Dampier. And if you disagree, that's, I don't know. That's just what I saw. The stats do disagree a little bit, but what I was seeing was BYU's defensive line, even if they weren't getting to Dampier, they were getting close, and there was a lot of pressure on Dampier. But that's just my perspective. I literally made the prediction that this game would hinge on Utah's ability to get away from Jack Kelly and Isaiah Glasker, and I think that was an accurate estimate from my side of things. So, yeah, frustrating. I was in the stadium. They brought me ice cream. We lost the game. You know, we as Utah fans had to sit and watch that happen again. So it's frustrating. But anyway, well, I'm gonna end it there, guys. We need to stop talking about the game. It's on a high note. Yeah, exactly. So, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Statistically Speaking, we appreciate you. If you have anything you want to share, drop it down in the comments below. Make sure you like and subscribe to UteNation. We appreciate you. Click the link or go to the link here going across the bottom of the screen, utenation.com, promo code UTE50 for 50% off a subscription to UteNation. And go Utes.